Hi there, I'm here with the new Redline EX from Escort. Escort was kind enough to make special arrangements to get this new detector to me. They had a soft release over this past weekend with a handful of detectors, and Escort was kind enough to pull one of these products from abroad. They'll be coming in, and we expect to have them in, I think, or they expect to have them in about 2 weeks or so. So expect mid-August to the end of August, and at the latest early September. So for those of you that are not familiar with the Redline EX, the Redline EX is the updated, finally the updated version of the original Escort Redline. The Redline was Escort's super sensitive dual-horned M3 platform of detectors that was able to provide extreme performance, but have the special ability, being the first of its kind actually, to the M3 platform not to be detectable by Spectra. This was something that was thought not to be possible. You know, the Redline was starting to show its age. A lot of new technology has come along, which has made that detector much harder to use in today's driving environment, most notably from the K-band collision avoidance systems that are now just about everywhere you'll find on the road. And these frequency modulated K-band radar systems can wreak havoc on radar detectors that have to have K-band on in the areas where K-band police radar is used. So it really rendered the Redline in many areas unfortunately unusable. So it was time for Escort to update the unit. And basically what we have here is the cross between an Escort Redline and the Escort IX. And the Escort IX is a single antenna which has a GPS and Bluetooth built in, which gives you photo enforcement, the ability to have photo enforcement, variable speed muting based on your speed and sensitivity on X and K band. It also has auto locate, which is a nice setting which allows the detector to dial back a little bit on K-band when you're driving around town to reduce falses. And that's a nice feature because when you're driving in areas that you normally don't drive, auto lockout and those types of things, which will quiet a detector in those areas, really won't apply. So auto locate really helps in that regard. So the new Redline EX basically has all the advanced features of Escort's current line of detectors. So it's an extreme performing undetectable radar detector that has all the advanced features of GPS, Bluetooth photo enforcement, and most importantly too, the updatability with a USB cable. So unlike the older Redline, which I actually happen to have here, it wasn't updatable. So you get all the nice benefits, and it's a nice refresh. Now, interestingly enough, insofar as in terms of size and weight, this detector pretty much slots below the size of the Escort Max 360, you can see, but it's wider than, as you would expect, an Escort IX because it's got 2 antennas there, so it's got to make room for that. So that's why the detectors are wider. Interestingly enough, the Escort IX is Escort's heaviest windshield mount radar detector. This puppy clocks in at about 345 grams, whereas the Max 360 clocks in at 319. The Escort Redline comes in at about 300 grams, and then the Escort IX comes in at a 222 grams. So there's a lot of hardware in here, which is what it accounts for the weight. The other nice thing about the Escort IX, the Redline EX, just like the Escort IX, is it's got that quick release sticky cup mount, which is very nice. It also comes, like the IX, with a SmartCord that has a USB connection, which is really nice, so you can power your smartphone and then run the Escort Live application without having to worry about draining the battery of the of the iPhone or Android phone that you'd be using. Now, the other interesting thing about the Redline EX, no longer does Escort make a domestic or North American version of a radar detector and an international version of the radar detector. So with the original Redline, you had your Redline for North America, and then I think you had what was called a Redline A, which was for international versions. The international marketplace has some different police radar systems that we currently don't have in the U.S., most notably the multi-radar MRCD and MRCT, also Gatso, and then there's a Streika, which I'm not actually particularly familiar with. But these radar systems abroad are much harder to detect. Some of them are frequency hopping, some of them are polarized, and it makes it much harder on a domestically designed radar detector for the States to detect, where we don't have that technology. The MRCD, multi-radar systems, are beginning to make their appearance in Canada, in North America, so I think it's a nice thing that Escort is actually allowing drivers in North America, even in the US, to have access to the radar detector. I also think it makes more sense on a packaging standpoint. Why make two different types of detectors when you can do it all in just one? And in the event that some of these technologies do come to the United States, we'll be ready for that. So that's a nice feature. The other aspect here, which I like, is it also takes some plays from what was the original 9500 IX. There was an international version for that as well, and it had the ability to segment K-band. Well, other manufacturers have of recent, including Redenso and Uniden, offer narrow sweeps of K-band. Now that's nice because you can reduce falses to, again, these collision avoidance systems, depending on which manufacturer that you're going to come across, whether it's an Acura, GM, Honda, Fiat, Audi, BMW. They'll have there's many different types of systems. In fact, there are different types of systems within the same manufacturer, like a GM, which can be really, or Cadillac, that can be a real pain to try to keep up with all that. So in addition to the IVT filter that is incorporated into Redline EX as it is in the Escort IX, you can actually drop out particularly good segments that are not really usable or can be used to detect police radar, because the radar doesn't actually transmit in those regions generally, and then reduce the falses. Also, it helps by reducing falses to K-drone speed signs and K-drone signs that don't show you your speed on the highway around construction zones. Those things are battery operated, and oftentimes when the battery is of different voltage and output, the radar can stray off of its normal typical frequencies, and when it does that, it gets out of tune. They don't have to be calibrated like they do with police radar. And again, if you go outside of the normal range of where police radar is supposed to operate, you can cut some of those out as well, so you don't even have to look for them. So that's also a nice feature. Of course, the Redline EX has the nice ability to segment, like the original Redline and M3 detectors, and yours truly was able to discover the value of that many years ago. And in the US, the sweet spot for segmentation is dropping out all segments through 1 through 10 except 258. And then there's a feature called RDR, which is the additional filtering on Ka band, and you can drop out those. So 258 RDR off really takes this detector to the highest levels on Ka detection as well as quickness. So the nice thing about the new display here, the OLED color display, as well as the updated, which I think is actually nicer than the original Redline LED of LEDs, the alert lamp. This is a nice LED type smooth display, so it looks more refined. The nice thing about this is that you can change the color of the alert band here based on the band, very much like the Escort Max 360, where X band will display as green, so it gives you nice feedback to know exactly what the band is, and K band is blue, and then Ka is red as well as laser. So Ka and laser are both red. The one thing that would be nice to see with this detector, I wish Escort would bundle a USB to mini D cable here so you can update the detector easily without having to try to find these cables. They're a little bit harder now because we've moved away from devices that often use that. You'll see smaller versions of this or different types of connectors. So I don't think these are as readily available, the USB to mini D. So it would be nice if Escort would consider packaging a small cord to do that. So at any rate, I expect to take this detector out on the road this weekend and see what we come up against. I'll have the original Redline, and with my particular test vehicle, my test mule here, which is a 5 Series BMW, I also have the original Beltronics STIR, the 9500 CI, and the STIR Plus remote, so I'll be able to get a look, or we'll be able to get a look at how the Redline EX compares with all of these other detectors. And since all of them are the M3 platform, we really don't have to worry about potential interference. So this should give us a really nice look at how Escort has evolved this M3 platform over all of these years. So I'm really looking forward to that experience.